Hey there, this is Julie. I'm demonstrating right here myself painting plein air, and my object in painting from life is to see with my natural eye the differences in temperature, value, saturation, and color. So, first, I'm getting the composition in, and I'm really kind of making some quick decisions here, but sometimes you might want to use a viewfinder to help you kind of narrow down subject matter within a scene, because from my vantage point, what I'm painting is really kind of far away. So you can't see everything, but I've really like pulled up maybe at this point right here, and then unfortunately some of what I got across the street isn't included in this, but so I'm like right about here, and here is my composition that I'm pulling together. A viewfinder can help you do that, but if you're used to painting from life, then you can really kind of pull this together fairly quickly, and or just painting in general. So that being said, I use yellow ochre because again, I'm trying to keep it simple. I want to work fast. So yellow ochre is a good color to um, paint over. It as long as you paint it fairly lightly, maybe add white into it. It doesn't really adversely affect other colors that you put down. So eventually it's going to get painted over and mixed in, kind of. Um, I'm saying hi to the audience there, but I start talking, and that can be seen on my YouTube channel. But I just wanted to show you some of the things that I'm focusing on here. And right there, I'm pointing out what I'm painting. It's that tree line in the back. So I've got my composition in, and I'm going to start putting in dabs of paint that are the start notes to describing the light conditions. So typically under a blue sky, to exaggerate the feeling of light, adding a pink, and in this case, I end up adding a little bit of yellow light or lemon yellow, because at the very bottom of the sky, it turns more in the yellow zone, but the pink stands as a bit of a platform to the blue, so that you're not just painting a blue sky. That can be kind of flat and boring. As I move along, I'm putting dabs of paint to like help me gauge my saturation, my color choice, my value difference, between the objects. And the only way that you can know this is by putting something down. So I get started. Now, I already know that that distant piece of land, this little piece of land right here, is got a little cooler feel than, like, say, what's happening here. So I have to think about, how do I make that setback have a little atmosphere, seem less bright, which this is very bright here, and particularly standing in front of it, it's really bright. But then, when I look right at this, it can appear like it's very bright as well. But the reality is, and you can see it in this photo, that this is a little bit subdued. It's muted. It's not quite as strong as what we're seeing over here. So on this side, which I'm hoping one of my photos show it, but I'm not sure it does. Oh, I think it does. I'm looking at my slides here. We've got kind of like a pine tree being hit by light, and then has some strong shadows. So that gives us a whole nother like type of yellow that we have to consider. So here we are with these strong orangey yellows. How do we describe this and not be repetitive, because we really want the different parts to stand out from each other. So I start out with this yellow just to kind of see, and I'm not committing to anything. That's why we do these little dabs first, and then as we progress, we see the comparisons and we see what we need to adjust. The road is tricky. So my final rendition, which is not a finished painting at this point, is not quite there yet. I want to do more, so there'll be a part 2 to this whole painting. The only part that's unfortunate is I probably won't get to do it from life, because we've had some unbelievable weather the last few days, and it's going to stay with us until Saturday, and I'm not sure I'll be able to get out there at the same time. So that's a major key when you're painting from life, is that you have a 1.5, 2 hour window where the light is consistent, so you can then get something together. But if you don't finish, you have to come back at that time and work on it some more. And with, changing leaves in autumn and whatnot, who knows how long that's going to be there. So I did take a reference photo to give me something to work from in the studio, but here you can see I went pretty strong right in there with a more orangey type color. And my thinking is and it's actually kind of leaning into the red. I added a little red into the orange, is that I'm going to be adding some green in there at some point. So how that ends up looking compared to, the fiery tree that's on the right is going to be very different. That guy came walking along, so I shut the video off. So these are some of the stages. I've got a little bit of dappled light on my painting, but here you can see that bush, and there's actually even a little more that I was able to add in, but I didn't get it in the photo here. I think I did get a reference photo for it though. So I'm consistently comparing. Now you can see clearly that this isn't quite right because it's too close to this. I started adding in some violet and magenta to kind of bring the blue in a little more. And that's something I'll be working on. The neutrals or the grays are tricky because when they're in sunlight, this is a type of yellow. When we are doing a block study on a gray table or a gray tablecloth, that gets translated as some type of yellow. So I wanted to make sure that this road translated as being in sunlight. And I don't want to just add white. That's the tonalist way of doing it. And I am trying to achieve the colorist's way of doing this. So I still have some work to do there because this and this are just a little bit too close. Right here, we're starting to see a little change, but it's not there yet. But you see, I'm getting my blocks of shadows and my blocks of sunlight. Now these two things are very close, but you see what happens when I start bringing the green over it. And as the painting progresses, you're going to see like this one here really shows it a little more. I probably should have done it as its own slide, but it totally changes from what's happening over here. So here you can kind of see it in these two images, how this tree, this pine-like tree, it's being hit by sunlight. So it's going to be very cool and close to local color in the shadowed areas, and it's going to be a lot warmer in the sunlit areas. But we want to make sure that how this translates is not the same as this. And we can kind of see even with these two trees, even though this isn't a pine tree, the pine tree has a very different kind of look, but how different they are in sunlight. But there's that warmth, that yellow light glow. So this is where I ended up. This is just taken with my phone. I definitely still have some work to do. This road, without a doubt, needs some changes to it. It's starting to not look so much like that, but it's got to have a stronger differentiation between these two. So the four components that we're always looking for is temperature, value, saturation, and color. So these are the kinds of things that I teach in my courses, and I go into more depth, but there will be a part 2 to this where you can see the progression of where I go with this.